What is going on, everyone? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. This is awesome. It looks like there's a lot of people that had been watching Pace on some other lives today as well. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time here on Sunday Service, Sunday Service is a podcast that Pace and myself have been doing for almost 3 years now, which is crazy. I mean, time really does fly. And so just a quick, history of, why Sunday Service even exists. Pace and I used to, when we first started working together, we would talk about, we really wish there were more places that beginners could go. Because there are some podcasts, but there isn't really much interactive. There weren't very many interactive podcasts where questions were actually being answered and, details were actually being shared with people. And so, we talked about, well, why don't we just start doing a call? And I'm curious to, if there's anyone listening from 3 years ago, I'd be really interested to hear. But essentially what Pace and I used to do is we started this by doing just a dial in. Like people would have to call in and listen to a conference call line, and we would just talk about our business, what we're doing in our business, what's working, what's not working, and talk about deals that we're doing. And so that's how we started with Sunday Service. And so and it's evolved from there to, we used to do an Instagram live, and now, obviously where we're broadcasting over our YouTube channels. Sunday Service is on iTunes. It is on Spotify as well. So if you're ever driving around through the week, wanting to plug in something and learn something new, you can tune into Sunday Service from Spotify and iTunes as well. We are, excited to continue growing our podcast presence there. Outside of that, up until 3 years now, at this point, we are sponsored now by Batch Leads. So obviously you guys can see there in the top left corner, Batch Leads, did sponsor our show. So for those of you that have never used Batch Leads before, you can go to batchleads.io/Sunday and get 5,000 free records. So I just posted the link there for you guys that you can go ahead and check that out. But so over the last 3 years, we've talked about so many different topics here on Sunday Service, and, this wouldn't exist without each and every one of you listening in. So, we're so excited to, have you here. So the topic today that we're going to be talking about is around getting started in real estate, getting started in this business. And so there's so many angles and so many different ways that you can attack that from, just getting started in your real estate business. And, I want to talk about, just some things to think about. Because I think that for a lot of people, when they're first getting their business started, they don't really have a lot of context to, what's it really going to take to be successful? What do I really want my business to look like? How am I going to get there? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to meet with? What communities do I need to maybe become a part of to be able to grow? And on the topic of communities, if you're not already within the Facebook community that Pace and I have, it's literally called Creative Financing with Pace Morby. You can go on Facebook, search that in, join the Facebook group. There's a community of other like-minded individuals like yourself that can network with, that are doing deals, that you can do deals with. You definitely want to get involved in a community. So with that said, I do want to talk about, as you're getting started, just some thoughts, some things to think about, some things that, you have to, consider that aren't always talked about. Some of these things aren't super exciting, but they're things that you got to think about and things that you have to look at as you're getting started. So if you're just so there's going to be people on here and listening in that maybe you're just you're looking to get your first deal, or you're looking to get your next deal. And so one of the things that I would suggest that you do is, and it sounds cheesy, but bear with me, is getting a vision of what you want your business to look like. Because you can never know you can never get to where you want to go if you don't know where you're wanting to go in the first place. I see, there's a lot of people tuning in from different areas, like Rick from Long Beach. And so this is something that I had a mentor tell me this story when I was first getting started. Effie says it, know what you want. You got to know what you want, right? And so with with the story that a mentor told me when I was 17 years old, when I was told this about 10 years ago, my mentor told me, he's like, Cody, the reason that it's so important to know where you're going is because you need some way to measure if you're going in that right direction. If you just take action aimlessly and you don't really have a target of what you're looking to hit, you're not going to be able to get there, and you're going to end up regretting where you're at. And so he told the story. He's like, hey, Cody, so, you can drive a car from, let's say Long Beach, the Rick that was from Long Beach. You can drive a car from Long Beach to New York City, right? I'm like, yeah, of course. You just, it's going to be probably a few days drive, but you can drive from Long Beach to New York. And so, in the story, he used San Francisco, right? So he's like, can you drive from San Francisco to New York only driving in the dark? And I'm like, well, yeah, you just turn your headlights on. You just see, with your headlights where you need to go, a little bit in front of you all along the way. And so what the point that he was trying to make in this story was, he said, Cody, you can drive from San Francisco to New York City in the dark, only seeing the next couple 100 feet in front of you with your headlights. And success is a lot like that. Success in your real estate business is a lot like that. Because I'd be curious, put some yeses in the comment section if you're listening live, and let me know, yes, if you've ever felt, scared, or you didn't know what your next step was in your real estate investing business, or you just thought, you were alone in the dark. You're just like, what the heck? Put a yes in there. I'm going to drop the first yes because that was for sure me. So we have, Sandy says yes. Awesome. Peggy says yes. Look where you want to be. Darren, yes. Kelly, yes. Paul, yes. Amy, yes. Scott says yes. Josiah says yes. There's a lot, guys, you're in good company. There's a lot of people in the same situation that you're in. And so in this story of driving from San Francisco to New York City, my mentor, he told me, he's like, so Cody, you know that if you're, driving from San Francisco to New York, you can drive there in the dark with your headlights on. And he's like, why is that? And it's because I have a definite destination of where I'm going. My goal is to get to New York City. So in comparison, if your goal is to get to $10,000 a month or $5,000 a month or $2,500 a month and cash flow from Airbnbs or rental properties, or you want to do $10,000 a month in your wholesaling business, whatever that target is, you have to know where you're going first. You'd be crazy. Your significant other would probably look at you crazy if you hop in the car and she's like, where are we going? Or he's like, where are we going? And you're like, I don't know. Like, people aren't going to want to get in the car with you. You got to have a direction of where you're trying to achieve what you're trying to accomplish. And so, I'm on this route to New York City. And the greatest thing about this that kind of did this light bulb moment for me within the story he was telling me, he's like, so Cody, obviously, you know that you want to get to New York City, you can do it at night, and you only need to see the next couple 100 feet in front of you. So if you look back to a comparison between the story of driving from, San Francisco, California to New York and only doing it at night, that's the same type of thing that's within your real estate business. Because a lot of people, they get analysis paralysis in their real estate business. It's the equivalent of getting in the car, knowing that you just want to start heading to New York, but instead of actually doing anything, you have your headlights off. You don't even turn your headlights on, so you can't see anything. You just sit there and you're not even moving, right? Along the way, from driving from San Francisco to New York, you may get detoured. You may come across, oh, this road's closed. I need to take another path. It's going to, reroute me, and it's going to take me a little bit longer to get there. the same thing happens in your real estate journey. The same thing happens when you're pursuing your real estate dreams. And so the great thing about it is, and the story is, to drive from San Francisco to New York, you only need to see, even driving at night, the next couple hundred feet in front of you. You don't need to know the entire route. All you need to do and know is what's your next step. What's that next thing that you have to do? And so I wanted to start with that story and segue into this topic, because there's a lot of people that are probably listening and have analysis paralysis on here. There's so many paths to take that you don't know what path that you should actually take. You see someone had success door knocking. You see someone had success cold calling. You see someone else had success sending mail. You see somebody else is contacting probate attorneys, having success with that. You see someone else hired a VA and their VA got them a lead they made 50 grand on. But then you have the other side of that. You see someone else that, they hire a VA and they it's a bad experience. You get, you work probate leads and you get nothing. You do direct mail, you lose thousands of dollars. You do a text campaign, you get no results. These are all things that you have to start to identify and start paying attention to how you're thinking, because you're looking at all these shiny object syndromes of, maybe the grass is greener doing that marketing channel, or maybe the grass is greener doing this thing over here. And I can tell you, the grass is going to be greener where you water it. And it's I know it's cheesy. I honestly hate, mentioning some of those, I guess, analogies or, whatnot, but the grass is going to be greener where you water it. And so, yes, there's money to be made in direct mail. Yes, there's money to be made in door knocking. Yes, there's money to be made in cold calling. All of those strategies work, but you have to find which one's going to work best for you. So I'm going to circle back to what I did when I first was starting in my real estate business. And I'm going to share the things that I did when I first started, but I don't want, those that are listening to take it as, Cody did that, I have to do that same thing or I'm not going to be successful. I'm going to share the story because it's my story. But you have to, each one of you on this live or this podcast listening in, you have your own story. So you have to find what works best for you. I'm sure everybody can, see this and understand this and, have the perspective that Pace and myself were very different people. Where I'm more integrator, Pace is more visionary, right? So the strategies that each of us would use if we were going to individually go and start our real estate business are going to be a little bit different, because he's going to go play on his natural, unique talents and God-given abilities. And I'm going to do the same. Just as if, if I was born and I'm 6'7" and I just happen to be able to run really fast, have great coordination, I'm great at basketball, I'm probably going to play basketball because that makes the most sense. I'm not going to probably try to go be a jockey and ride horses, because those are typically people that are a lot shorter than somebody that's 6'5". So it's there's certain things about each of us and about each of you that are listening in right now that you have unique abilities. And so when it comes to getting started in your real estate business, you want to lean into your unique abilities. So for example, when I got started, I did driving for dollars. So for me, I didn't know all the different strategies of how I could market and actually get deals. So I started driving for dollars. Long story short of what is driving for dollars, that maybe you're hearing it for the first time. Essentially, I got on my phone, I got in the car, I drove around neighborhoods where I knew fix and flippers were buying. How did I know this? Because I reached out to fix and flippers and found what neighborhoods are you buying in? What neighborhoods would you want to buy in? And so I acted as an order taker And I just, okay, these areas are where people want to buy. And then I would go drive those areas, look for basically beat up houses. I have YouTube videos on my YouTube channel talking about how to drive for dollars, what to look for, and all those things. So I'm not going to get too much into that. But you can go to my YouTube channel, see an in-depth video of what to look for, what to say, how to do all those things, and get the feedback there. But that was how I got my first couple deals, was driving for dollars and just reaching out to homeowners that had, busted up, beat up houses. And so that was the strategy that I used. And it worked for me because I was in the car, I was listening to podcasts about real estate, like Steve Trang's Real Estate Disruptors podcast. And so I'd be driving, listening to that. I'm like pumped up. I'm adding addresses of just junky houses. And then I would get home and then I would cold call all of those people. Hey, John, or hey, Susie, my name's Cody. I actually, was in the neighborhood and I was looking at another property and I saw your property over here at 123 Main Street. Would you be open to selling that? Or you wouldn't be interested in selling that, would you? And that's what I did. There wasn't some secret magic thing. And then I would door knock them on the weekends if I couldn't get a hold of them during the week. So I just did that every day. And so that was what I did to, essentially break into the business and get my business running. I had a real estate background because I worked as a real estate agent prior to the wholesaling side of the business. So I had understanding of how transactions worked and how to comp properties and things like that. But when it came to the investing side, I was super green. And so that's what I did. There's other ways, obviously, to have success doing it. You can joint venture with other investors and help them sell deals to other people. But that was the way that I, got myself involved in the door and got those first couple deals done. See here, because I know I've been seeing a lot of comments coming up in the side section here. Let's see here. All right. So many different things going on the sides here. That's interesting. So in getting started, Justin says the definition of cold calling leads are legit cold. Yeah. So what I was doing was actual cold calling, but it was targeted. There's a difference between just cold calling random lists of data and just calling anyone out there and not having any sort of strategy whatsoever and reaching out to somewhat of a targeted list. Like the cold calling that I was doing was actually reaching out directly to properties that I knew were junk because I saw them with my own eyes, and that's who I was reaching out to. So sharing the story of like that's how I got started. I did the driving for dollars. I got my first couple deals. I saved the cash that I got from those deals and then started spending money. I hired a virtual assistant. I started spending money on text marketing. I started spending money on cold callers to be able to start generating more leads. So again, it's slow when you're doing that all on your own. Obviously, if you're the only one in your business generating leads and you're driving for dollars, if you're not doing it, nothing's happening. And so that's how I got my business started. And then I started hiring the cold callers, the virtual assistants to do those things, and was able to start scaling from that because then I had consistent leads coming in. That wasn't like me just doing all of it. And so that's, and then long story short, some months later, Pace and I, came together and, linked up and, now it's been the last 3 years, 3.5, 4, I don't even know. It's been almost 4 years coming up sometime this year. So that was, that's how we were able to, that's how I was able to get my business started. But I want to say for those of you that are on here is understanding, what are you trying to accomplish, and that's why I started at the beginning of this, call talking about where do you want to go? What are you trying to accomplish? And yeah, Desiree, that's right. I mean, literally within a few years, a lot of things can change. but understanding where you want to go, because I knew what I wanted to accomplish. I knew I wanted to get a real estate wholesaling business to where I could be doing over 100 grand a month in revenue. So then I could fix and flip. So then I could then buy rentals, because it started with, I wanted to be able to get my lifestyle to be paid for with residual income. My lifestyle is paid for with residual income now. I don't live a very extravagant lifestyle. I live in a nice home that I've remodeled, but I didn't. It doesn't happen by accident. I looked at, okay, I need to get to, and this is an exercise what you guys could do. So write down all of your expenses. If you don't know how much your personal expenses are on a monthly basis, shame on you. You should know what you're spending personally on a monthly basis. So write out all of your personal expenses. Literally just throw it on an Excel sheet. Open up your bank account, Chase, go into Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whatever bank you're with. Go in there and look over the last 30 days. Okay, I spent this much on rent or on mortgage. I spent this much on, subscriptions. I spent this much on all these things, so personal living. And so once you know what that is, like one of those first goals should be, how do I, put a target around getting to a residual amount of income to cover my personal living expenses, if that's the goal, right? Like that was one of my first goals, was how do I get my personal living expenses covered? And so at that stage, for me, because I didn't have kids, I still don't have kids, there was not tons of expenses and craziness. I was only at about $3,500 a month. If I can get $3,500 a month residually, meaning every month I'm getting that coming in, I'm financially independent, meaning my residual income can cover what my personal living expenses are. And then anything else above that is gravy. So I think that's one of the first things, is establishing, like, how do I get my personal expenses covered residually? And it doesn't mean that, like, if you have 5,000 in rental income come in, that it has to go directly into your personal checking account and pay for that $5,000 of personal expenses. Because for me, say for example, $10,000 a month of residual income is coming in. That money I have go right back into, financial freedom and investing in more properties. And I have my active income paying my living expenses and those sorts of things. But I have the residual income there that if I wanted to stop working, I could, because I had that goal and I had that target. So, oh my gosh, Mike says, Cody, I think I would rather find out I have COVID than come to terms with my monthly expenses. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, a lot of people have a hard time around, getting really involved with what's going on with their finances. And I'm not going to lie, there's certain areas around mine that, scare me. More so it's around taxes. That's what freaks me out. Like, I just got my tax bill for last year. Thankfully, we wrote off a lot of things, so that was able to help significantly, but I still was like, ugh, getting the tax bill, which is never fun. So you just have to stomach it and get through it. Getting out of your comfort zone to grow. But figuring out, like, what are your personal living expenses. Once you know what your personal living expenses are, you can then go to work on your business, and whatever strategy you're going to go to get started on that. And from there, you build a business that could then be working towards accomplishing that. So how does that look? So say if I want to get, $5,000 a month in residual income to be able to pay for my living expenses, right? So what that starts with is like, okay, well, if I'm building my real estate wholesaling business, or I'm doing fix and flips or whatnot, I need to do, this many wholesale deals or this many fix and flips, so that I could save, this amount of money, so I can go and buy a rental property, or I can go and buy a property that I could turn into an Airbnb. And then you could just do the math. I need to get this, 5 Airbnbs or 3 Airbnbs to reach $5,000 a month in residual income averaged out over a year. Most markets are going to be seasonal with Airbnbs, where some months of the year are going to be way better than others, but averaged out, getting that to $5,000 a month. And then, if it's rentals that you're going after, you're like, Airbnbs aren't for me, that's not in your strategy, that's fine too. How many rentals do you need to buy to be able to accomplish getting to that $5,000 a month? Well, if your average net cash flow on a rental is $500 a month, you need 10 of them. Okay, well, make a plan around that. 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, how fast are you going to be able to do that? And this all, again, I know we're talking about getting started in your real estate business. And I know a lot of this seems like, well, I'm not even there yet. I'm like scratching my head on like, what's a pre-foreclosure? If you don't know where you're trying to go, nothing else matters. Because once you know where you're going, you can figure out the hows along the way. The why is always more important than the how. Why am I doing something? Why am I looking to accomplish this? Is always more important than the how of all the little details of how it's going to happen. Because to me, if if one of the targets that I had was, getting to $10,000 a month in residual income, do you think I cared if that was, between 20 properties or 30 properties, or like how many actual properties it was? Like, I didn't really care. I'm like, I want to get to 10,000 a month in residual income. So that's what you have to look at, is like, what is what you actually want? So then you could figure it out, and you have to do the math for your market. For example, in Phoenix, Arizona, you're pretty much paying, $450,000 for a house right now, and the median price point. So I know if I want to go buy a median price point home, and getting a good deal on it, and I'm going to do a more traditional type of a purchase, I'm going to probably have $60,000 to $100,000 of cash tied up in a property to make a couple $100 a month in cash flow. If it's a rental, if it's an Airbnb, the numbers get way better. But that's what you're looking at in Phoenix right now. If I'm going to go to like an Ohio, certain markets in Ohio, maybe I'm buying properties for 70 grand, 80 grand, 90 grand. And I'm tying up maybe 20 grand, 30 grand into those properties. And then I'm cash flowing $350 a month, $400 a month. Obviously, you have give and take, like markets like Arizona, that you have a lot more appreciation on the actual value of the property, but the cash flow is typically not as good. Ohio, for example, your cash flow, you may be getting a lot more cash flow for the properties that you're buying, but the appreciation, you're not really getting large chunks of appreciation holding that property either. So, and why, the reason I'm mentioning that is that also goes into your strategy of getting started. Is your goal to build a real estate wholesaling company and have 20 employees and be doing, deals in 10 different markets all over the United States and make a bunch of money doing that and have this whole operation? Or is it more, how do I just get to that, residual cash flow, right? And so that could help you and save you time on understanding what market you actually want to do deals in as well. And I'm not saying Ohio's the only market you can go get cash flow deals in. There's other markets in the Midwest that do well, certain areas in Florida. It really just depends, but that's part of your research, and that your due diligence is starting your business is, where am I trying to go, so I could figure out where I want to spend my time. Fix and flips, Pace and I have always wanted to, do fix and flips. And so that's where we've continued to do those in Arizona, because it works really well for us here. And you get large chunks of cash on those. And then we're, turning that cash and putting those into buying rentals in Arizona, and then also Airbnbs in Arizona. Pace does buy in other states as well, but we're still confident in the market continuing to grow here and rent rates continuing to grow, that we're still totally comfortable buying more rentals in Arizona as well. But this comes into, getting started is, what's your vision? Why do you, what do you want? Is that residual income? Is it building this big wholesale operation? And part of that is like what you want your lifestyle to look like. For me, I like having the flexibility of last summer, me and my girlfriend Hayel, we went and traveled for a month and a half. We spent 3 weeks in Costa Rica surfing. We went to Colombia. We went to one of my best friend's birthdays up in Michigan and hung out on Lake Michigan. And we, did all these fun, fun things. We went to Miami for a part of that and went to, a conference there, and then, had fun at the beach. Like, what do you want your life to look like? I always wanted a company that I was building that would allow me to have those sorts of freedoms where my business was still able to run, money was still coming in while I was able to travel and do those things. Versus, having a business where I have to be in the office. Otherwise, my team's not operating, my team's not performing. So those are things that you have to think about. Do you want to be able to live a nomad lifestyle and be able to travel and, work remotely or whatnot? Those are all things to, think about, because there's plenty of investors that maybe they door knock and they have a team of door knockers and they have to be in town and hitting doors for their business to be running successfully. Or, you have someone else that's running it all virtually. So those are decisions. Those are things that you have to decide on, like how you want to set your business to look like. Let's see here. I know we had some questions here, so I want to just grab a couple of these questions as I'm going through this, and then I do want to hit a couple more points on getting started. Joe Hernandez says, Cody, do you implement profit first in your business? Yes, we do. For those that are wondering what the heck profit first is, get started with it once your business is established. You don't need to go and learn profit first when you don't even have a business that's set up yet. But I just posted it in the comments. Those that are listening, maybe on the recording, you can go on Amazon and type in Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Essentially, it's a way of managing your cash flow as a company so that you're the most profitable possible, and so that you're paying attention to the numbers that actually matter, so that you aren't, wasting money or overspending and things like that. So, great question, Joe. We definitely do use it. I don't want to overcomplicate it for, some people that may be newer on here and saying everybody should do that. But yes, we do. Let's see. Seeing what other questions have. Miss Archie says, I need $8,000 a month and I can stop signing for deals. I love that. So working that backwards, how do you want to get to that $8,000 a month? Is that with, do you want to lend money? Do you want to do a bunch of wholesales and fix and flips and have a bunch of cash and lend money? Do you want to do wholesale deals and fix and flips and make a bunch of cash to be able to buy rentals that, build to that $8,000 a month? Or do you want to do Airbnbs that build to that $8,000 a month? Or do you want to do a mix? Like for myself, I have an allocated amount of money that I'll lend on deals so that I can get an interest rate return. If you're lending out, say $100,000 at 12% interest, you're going to get $1,000 a month in interest income. So I have money that's out working and doing that. Then I have money that's in rental properties, bringing in cash flow on the rentals. And then I have money in deals that are bringing in money from Airbnbs. And then, other streams of income as well. But you can do a mix of it. But you have to figure out, Archie, what kind of a mix, or if one of those is just like, I don't ever want to have rentals, I only want to do Airbnbs. That's fine too. But how do I get to $8,000 a month? What market am I going to do that in? How do I start finding those deals? Who do I need to contact? Who do I need to be connected with to be able to start working towards that target? Ooh, I love this. Derek says, I need 6 Airbnbs and 6 long-term rentals by the end of 2023. That's super achievable. Especially, those that are maybe doing some of the Airbnb arbitrage model where you're renting a property and then turning it into an Airbnb. I think you could do that really, really quick. The Airbnbs that you're, buying and having to renovate and then turn into Airbnbs, it takes a little bit longer. But Derek, I love that goal. I'm assuming you probably already have this and you're just not sharing all of the details on here, Derek. But what does that look like income wise for you? You don't have to share it, but just something for you to know internally is, why 6 Airbnbs? Is it a certain amount of income that each of those are generating on a monthly basis? And if it is, what type of Airbnbs do you need to be buying? Is it within a certain price point? Is it in a certain certain market that you're buying those Airbnbs in that are going to achieve those results? That's something to look at. And then I ask you the same question on the rentals as well. What does that need to look like? Effie says, buy real estate and you'll have a lot of tax write-offs. Yes, that is very true. I need to buy a lot more real estate this year, and so does Pace, so that we don't get wrecked next year and this year's taxes. But it's a constant thing. It's like, last year ends, we're like wiped off the sweat of like, all right, we bought, a good amount, but now it's like new year and it's like crap, making money again. And now we got to buy a bunch more to alleviate some of the tax burden. But that's part of it. Real Places says, if you're growing in the beginning, how do you know how and from where your next deals are coming from and how to make a plan? So I'm going to do a very simplistic explanation of this, and just to not overcomplicate it for those that are listening. So at the beginning, let's pick one. I'm just going to throw one out of the thin air, and I don't want any. We don't need to deliberate on whether it works in your market, doesn't work in your market. It's the tracking of the data that matters. So let's say, for example, and I'm just going to make this up. Let's say, for example, I am doing cold calling. I have, a virtual assistant doing cold calling for me. Say, startvirtual.com, virtual assistant, shameless plug, is doing cold calling for me. And I am able to, on average, out of every 40 leads that I get, I'm getting one contract that I'm making $10,000 from. So every time I get 40 leads, I typically get one contract and I make $10,000. So how would you know that? Because you got to track it. So you have to start tracking this, and don't make it complicated. Literally get an Excel sheet on your computer and put in, leads this week. How many leads did I get? Leads this month. How many leads did I get? Contracts this week. How many did I get? Contracts this month. How many did I get? Okay, well, I got one contract when I got 40 leads, and then I got, one contract when I got 52 leads next month. So you start to create averages. You start to track the data. So you have to track the activity that you're doing. And the same works for door knocking, direct mail, PPC, Facebook ads, all of the different, forms of marketing, text campaigns. You have to track it. So you track, what is the activity? What is the input? The input is, I sent this many text messages. I door knocked this many doors. I sent this many pieces of mail. I spent this much on Google AdWords. Okay, that's the input. What was that over the week, over the month? What was the output? How many of those leads converted into a contract? I would add this extra step in there. How many of those leads did I actually call? How many times did I call those leads? How many of those leads that I called turned into a contract? Of those contracts that I got, how many of those sold? How many did I sell to another investor? How many of those turned into a deal that I could buy and fix and flip? That's how you start making a plan. You track what you're doing, so then you can create a strategy around it. It's like if you're going to track like your diet, and you're tracking, okay, I'm eating 2,500 calories a day. I'm having this much protein, this many carbs, this much fat. And you do that over a month, and you do the same thing every day. And you realize, okay, I'm losing a pound a week. So if I continue doing the same thing that I'm doing over the next month, I should probably, with my past results, lose another pound every week. And then you keep tracking it, and you see if anything changes. And you notice, oh, I only lost 2 pounds this month. What do I need to change? Maybe I need to reduce my calories by a couple hundred a day. And then you track that over the next month and see what changes. That's how you make a plan. You take action, you track what the results are, and then you course correct based off of what the results are. The input is what you do. The output is what happens from the input. That's how you plan. That's how you track. That's what you do. Hopefully that was helpful. Joel says, do you think Airbnb is a safe investment? What if a big market crash and economic crisis happens? You have that risk at all times. If you invest in stocks, the stock market can crash. If you invest in real estate, the real estate market can crash. If you invest in, any other type of investment, it can crash. So you can't, there's a point of like, yes, you got to be, knowledgeable, but you can't live in fear. You should have adequate reserves. That property should be able to transition into a rental property if it cannot perform as an Airbnb, and it still should cash flow as a rental, not just as an Airbnb. If it cannot do that, I wouldn't buy the deal. Just, a tip of advice on that. So you can transition. You got to have multiple exit strategies for a deal. You don't want to be pigeonholed into one, just in case it doesn't work. Yeah, Derek said then he turns it into a rental. Yep, that's it. Gerald and Jessica says trying to make 25,000 a month at least to get out of the oil field. Have 2 rentals, but a mortgage that eats up that. So got to scale. Yeah, I mean, you got to get into some deals. I mean, fix and flips, wholesale, get that cash up, and then if you're just set on a certain cash flow amount, look where you can. If you're interested in Airbnbs, those will cash flow and get you there faster. If not, finding markets where you can cash flow pretty well on the the rents in the market. And I know sometimes it's not super sexy to think like I need to get 10 rental properties at, $400 a month to get to $4,000 a month in cash flow. I mean, what's the plan? What's the alternative? I mean, guys, like we got to look at like what are our alternatives out there? We're going to go invest in the stock market? Like we're going to go invest in these other strategies that don't even provide cash flow? I mean, real estate's the best opportunity that we have to be able to create true wealth. It's not a get rich quick, it's a get rich for sure. Because even if you bought 2 properties a year for the next 10 years, you have 20 properties. 10 years from now, you have 20 properties that are all probably cash flowing better and better and better because you're raising rents, the pay down, there's so many positive things that's happening. Like you're paying more principal on the mortgage, like you're just getting wealthier and wealthier the longer you stay in real estate. Real estate's about buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy real estate. Like you can't time the market. No one's an expert at timing markets. It's making the best educated decisions that you can with the information that you have, and then holding on for the long term. That's mine and Pace's strategy. We aren't becoming millionaires from any one of our properties, but from a collective. That's how we, add multiple millions to our net worth, is by continuing to follow the plan. We stay the course. Buy the deal, a few $100 a month cash flow, whatever. It's going to appreciate over time, over the next 5, 10, 15 years. Principal pay down is going to go down. We're going to continuously grow wealth through that. And so you don't need to buy thousands either to reach some of these goals that I'm seeing on here. Derek, long-term rentals here in Phoenix, that'd be great. Love that on the Airbnb as well. This is good stuff, Cody. Thank you. I thought I would, go a little bit different approach than, because I have videos on my YouTube of how to get started in real estate. Like you can go watch a quick video. Like I just wanted to talk more about like strategically, like based on where you're trying to go, what things you need to be thinking about, looking at to get there. And I'd love to answer some questions as well. If you guys have questions that you want to ask on, getting started or, investing in, getting to that financial independence number, that financial freedom number. I love talking about that. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that. Tyler's asking, are you buying in Ohio? No, I'm not. I'm maybe I would. And sometime if I had a rock star property manager, I would. I have a great property manager in Phoenix. That's why I'm happy to buy rentals here. I would rather not buy real rentals than ever manage my own properties again. Some people don't know this, but Laura, Pace's wife, and I used to manage our rental properties, and that was like the least happy I've ever been in my life was managing those. So God bless you if you those of you on here listening manage your own. You're a better human than I am. I just can't do it. I hate it. So if I have great property management and whatever in that market in Ohio, I'd consider it. But other than that, not interested. Mike says, Cody, I get the reverse engineering of the financial freedom number, but how do you adjust when you don't hit your goals or are growing slower than you projected? So my first comment on that, Mike, is I don't think I've ever hit any of my goals ever, really, on the timeline that I expected. I want to get to this amount of money a month by this date. Doesn't happen. But then 6 months later, 4 months later, I do. And then it's like, okay, what's that next target? So some of it is like you have to just course correct. And so how you adjust is you do a review to make sure that you're doing the right things that are going to get you there. So if my goal is to get to a certain amount of money and cash flow, and I'm at, say it's to get to, I don't know, 4,000 a month in cash flow, I'm at 2,000. I need to audit what I'm doing and see if I'm doing the right activities to get me closer to that $4,000 a month. That's what you have to do, is start auditing. Am I doing the right things to get me there? Do I need to look into some other alternative ideas and opportunities within real estate? Like if I'm only doing rentals, should I consider Airbnb? If I'm only doing Airbnb, should I consider, some rentals? If I'm only doing either of those, should I consider lending? I keep a couple $100,000 out, pretty regularly, just lending, so I can get cash flow from interest income. So you can look at some of the other things to help you get there. So being okay, the goal has to stay the same, or it doesn't have to, but like your vision should stay your vision, but the how of how you're getting there, you have to audit. Like, am I going too slow? If I'm needing to acquire 4 properties a year and I'm only acquiring 2, what activities cause me to acquire 2 a year? And how do I double those activities to acquire an extra 2 a year? And that would allow me to get to that 4 a year that I need to be at. So you have to sit down and actually start auditing the activity that you're doing if you're not getting there on the timeline, and then either evaluate, is this too aggressive of a goal and I need to adjust? The vision stays the same, 4,000 a month, right? But the actions and the timeline may adjust a little bit. That's what I do. I just look at, this took longer, and I'll be the first to say every goal I ever set always takes long. It always takes longer than I thought. It always costs way more money than I thought, and I always thought I was smarter than I thought at the time. But then every time I look back 6 months or 12 months, I'm like, wow, that was stupid, Cody. Why'd you do that? Or that was a bad decision. But like, those are the things that allow you to learn. And as long as you're learning and auditing yourself and having those self-reflections, you're able to look back and make changes and make decisions for a better future for yourself. Move Maker says, Cody, what markets have the best cash flow? The best markets the markets with the best cash flow. So my rule of thumb, I would never buy in a blue state. Sorry, anyone that's, buying in blue states, but they're typically just not landlord friendly generally. And again, I'm saying that as like a blanket statement. That could change if they have landlord friendly laws, but generally I would only buy in landlord friendly states. And then the markets that are going to typically have the best cash flow have a lesser amount of appreciation. So if you look at like Ohio, Indiana, Arkansas, Alabama, like some of those markets, they typically aren't appreciating as much as like a California, a Florida, a Texas, an Arizona, a California, a Washington, right? Like those markets appreciate a lot more. So you have to look at look at that within the market. But the reason I mentioned the landlord friendly is like I don't want to deal with the tenant being stuck in my property for a year or a year and a half and just blowing my projections on a property. But the best cash flow markets, a lot of the Midwest markets are better cash flow for sure. Let's see. Yeah, Michael Lewis says, I'm from Ohio. You're correct. Yep, it's definitely a better cash flow. Michael says, what's the best phone system to use just getting started? If you need just like free, Google Voice, use a Google Voice number. It's free. Eventually you want to switch to something else, like a dial pad. Like you get a dial pad number. It's like, I don't know, 20 or 30 bucks a month, something like that. And that's just if you're going to be doing individual calls. That's not a dialer where you're dialing through thousands of phone numbers a day, but just if you're just using that as your business line, essentially, those are things that you can do. Ooh, let's see what other questions. Derek says, Cody and I are cousins, but he refuses to work with me. People that don't see it, Derek's last name is the same as mine, Derek Barton. Long lost cousins. Joel says, I remember seeing an on-market fourplex in Ohio for $88,000. Like, that's amazing, right? But also, you want to make sure it's not in a terrible neighborhood either. Like, just because you can buy something cheap and the rents are high doesn't mean that you're actually going to get paid on those rents. Like, you got to make sure you're buying in an area where people actually are going to pay the rent. They're not going to just move in and squat on you. Let's see. What other questions do we have, guys, before we wrap it up? Joel says, seriously, missing out, not touching Ohio. Again, it's something that I look at eventually going to. If somebody refers me to an amazing property manager that actively manages their properties, that they're just like a raving fan of that property manager, I would have my interest provoked. And I would maybe look at it more, because I do think there's opportunities in Midwest markets in general, not just Ohio, for better cash flow. But just something that I have to have a good property manager. Oh, let's see. Mike, I answered your question. I saw it pop up again. Randolph says, Cody, what are some good formulas for lists and batch leads? I'm going to take a chance to shout out our sponsors on that. You can actually get 5,000 free records utilizing batchleads.io/Sunday. But the best lists, there's no such thing really as a best list, but pre-foreclosures, tax delinquent, probate, vacant properties, absentee properties, absentee vacants, like, mixing a couple of those together. What would you think about properties that are absentee, meaning the owner lives somewhere else, they're vacant, nobody's in the property, with people that are over 55 or 65 years old? Maybe it's a rental property of theirs that now is vacant and they don't want to deal with it anymore because they're getting older. Those are things to think about. All right. Derek, I'm sorry. We do have the same last name. Let's do a deal together, Derek. Hit me up. Man, so many good questions. I wanna knock out a couple more here. Bo says, I need to get to 5,000 a month passive income from rentals. Put a plan together. Where are you going to buy them? How are you going to find them? Who can you connect with to help you figure out how to get to that goal? Those are things you got to start thinking about. Pablo is saying, what should I look into if I want to get into lending first? How do I find contacts and deals with no contacts? I would join the Creative Finance with Pace Morby Facebook group, Pablo, and say, and share that. I want to lend money. There's a concept called gator lending. You can jump over to Pace's YouTube channel and get a better understanding of what that is. It's too long to go into it right now, but that's something that you can look at as far as lending and how to connect and like how to do the paperwork the right way and all those things. Ooh, Joey Hicks says, I need 5 Airbnbs by August 4th, making 10,000 net income per month to leave my W-2. Love that. Specifics. So then it's looking at how am I going to get those 5 Airbnbs? How am I going to find them, fund them, manage them, all of those things. All right, let's see what. Ooh. So Tyler, this is a great question. So Tyler's question is, Cody, for cash flow solely, what have you found to be the best cash flow strategy? Looking to start buying very soon, and I would like to find properties for Airbnb or maybe mobile home parks. What are your suggestions? So Airbnb, hands down, best cash flow. If you do it right, you have to get the right property in the right markets that are going to be occupied at the right amount, right? Like you can't just go buy any freaking random property and, expect it to perform. So you want to find the right properties. But for cash flow solely, excuse me, Airbnb is all day long. Those definitely bring in the most amount of cash for us. Our long-term rentals, like I feel like I don't even like feel the income from those because it's just kind of like goes into the company accounts for each of those. But the Airbnbs, I'm like, oh wow, like a couple $1,000 here, like $1,500 there. Those really do bring in great cash. Mobile home parks can as well. It's just that's a more sophisticated deal to do, and it's not. I don't want to discourage you and say they're too hard to do, but it's easier to go and like do like a rental arbitrage on Airbnb or go buy a house and Airbnb it than it is to like make sure you underwrite a mobile home park. Is my opinion, anyways. Love it. Derek says from his goal that I asked him about earlier, 2 to 4,000 a month for Airbnb, 20% cash on cash long-term rentals. I would love to be getting 20% cash on cash on long-term rentals. Our cash on cash on most of ours, like I'm pretty happy at like 10 to 12%. And Phoenix, it's hard to get juicier than that. Like I've settled at 8-9% on some of them because we also wanted the tax write-off for the depreciation. Man, there's so many good freaking questions, guys. My gosh. Noah, shout out to Noah. He actually manages our Airbnbs. He's awesome, makes it really easy for us. And so we can do what we do best and, be looking to acquire more of those properties. So Noah Hoffman's a great person to connect with. He is freaking a stud and makes our lives really, really great to work with on our Airbnbs. Thank you so much, Noah. We really appreciate you. All right. I want to take one more question. Scotty says, Cody, you are a great person. I appreciate that. We are, we want to help. I think as you become successful, part of like your role in life is to be able to help other people do the same and to become successful. I'm gonna jump on this one real quick because I think I'm gonna take two. I'm gonna take these two questions. These are a little bit off topic, but I think it's relevant. So Rudy says, start virtual right out the gates, or so I would say you do not want to go hire start virtual right out the gates if you don't know I have any idea what you're doing. You want to go hire startvirtual.com, which is where you're going to hire virtual assistants from. If you already have your kind of your plan in place, you know what you're doing, you know how to have conversations with sellers, because the last thing I want to see people do is go hire virtual assistants, generate leads, and then not know what the hell they're saying to them on the call. Like you got to know how to have a conversation or have somebody that can help you close those deals, because otherwise you're just going to be burning money on data and on virtual assistant costs and generating leads that you can't close. So if you feel confident on your closing abilities or your closing abilities of someone that can help you close those, I would say yes, if you need a virtual assistant to do that. Or if you're going to hire a virtual assistant to do administrative tasks for you, that's easy. That's a no-brainer that you should definitely be doing that. So for sure. I'm going to take this one, and this will be my last question here. Kyle says, Cody, what does your day look like at this point in the game? So for me, it's really dependent on the day, because I've I'm kind of like head of all of operations for our real estate company, our media company, which really Kelly runs the media company. I just say that because I basically kind of process like our payroll and kind of like some of the high level oversight and like some of the leadership stuff. So I'm involved in that. But working with Molly that oversees our real estate operations, like our rentals, our Airbnbs, and those things. So a lot of what my day to day is now is more of like strategy and legal things, like contractual things, high level problems that can't be solved by different team members within our companies that have to get elevated to me. Those are typically things that I'm doing. But day to day, I mean, gym in the mornings, spending time to have a good breakfast, getting, the meetings done that I need to for that day, depending on which line of business that I need to be involved with, or doing coaching and leadership and training, and then spending time myself getting better, reading, reviewing, auditing, doing think times, having time to actually strategize around projects and plans that we're putting into place, and helping implement operational protocols and systems. And those are a lot of the things that I'm doing. And then obviously making the videos for YouTube as well, but looking at deals, really underwriting deals that we want to maybe buy, strategizing around properties that we own. What can we do to increase the revenue on properties that we own, increase the performance of our portfolio of properties? Those are a lot of the things. And then anytime that Pace gets a crazy hair up his butt and has some amazing new idea of something, working with him on making sure that we can help take that idea, doing the best that I can. I don't always crush it on this, but doing the best that I can to take his idea and help with our team to make that idea come to reality. Those are a lot of the things that I'm doing. I guess is the best way to explain that on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, so that's what that looks like. I hope that what does Nancy say? Cody, I appreciate you doing this live. What is the number that I have to be at? What is the number I have to be at with passive income? Okay, cool. Love that. Sage. Love this. Love this. Great feedback, guys. So I hope this was helpful in giving a better understanding of, getting started. It's not just about like the what to do. It's the mindset of, okay, yes, I need to do this, but here are the things that I need to be keeping in mind for me to actually be able to accomplish that. So hopefully that's helpful, guys. These are things that I wish that I had someone telling me when I was starting out, when I'm just like banging my head against the wall, of just taking action. Joel says it was a calm one, but a good one. It's because Pace wasn't on here. I love it. I love it. Awesome, guys. Well, happy Sunday. Once again, always going to be here Sundays, 7 p.m. Arizona time. We'll see you next week. Have an amazing week, everybody.